This week, we explore a quiet revolution that is reshaping how goods move across the world, from farms and factories to your doorstep, all backed by blockchain. But before we dive in, did you know that 60% of you aren't following us across all our socials? If you like the show, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button on this app you're listening to us now and collect our episodes on pods.media. Your support means the world. Thanks, guys. Okay, let's unpack this. When you hear blockchain, you probably think crypto, right? Maybe Bitcoin, maybe, those digital art NFTs. But we've been digging through this week. It reveals something far more fundamental happening right now. Blockchain is actually creating trust and transparency in places you might never have considered, like the incredibly complex global networks, the ones that get everything from your coffee beans to your new laptop right to you. And it's not doing it alone. It's working hand in hand with something called digital twins.
That's absolutely right. And these digital twins, they're essentially real-time virtual copies, like replicas of physical things. Could be a single product, could be a whole pallet of goods, or even, an entire factory floor. So our mission in this deep dive really is to understand how these two technologies, blockchain and digital twins, are combining, how they enable this unprecedented end-to-end visibility and traceability across global trade. We're basically your guides today, looking at the material to see what's driving this change, why it really matters, and crucially, where it's actually happening.
Perfect. Let's jump straight into, what's happening at the core. We hear a lot about supply chains needing to be smarter, faster, more resilient.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the traditional supply chain. It's often just a series of handoffs, right? Different companies often using systems that, frankly, don't talk to each other. Data gets stuck, siloed. What blockchain brings is that shared immutable ledger, that record book everyone involved can see, but nobody can secretly change.
Immutable, meaning it can't be tampered with.
Exactly. Once a transaction or an event, say, a product moves location, ownership changes, maybe a temperature reading is taken, once that's recorded, it's permanent. A tamper-proof history.
So it's like the ultimate shared diary that no one can rip pages out of.
That's a great way to put it, yes. And the digital twin then complements that by giving you the current status, what's happening right now.
Wow.
You have sensors, often these small IoT, Internet of Things devices on the product or maybe in the shipping container. They feed real-time info into that virtual twin. Is the temperature right? Where is it physically located this second? Is the humidity okay?
Got it. So blockchain's the rock-solid history, the proof of what happened, and the digital twin is the live feed, the what's happening now.
Precisely. You get that verifiable history from the blockchain, and it's directly tied to the dynamic present status through the digital twin. It's pretty revolutionary for transparency.
And the results some companies are already seeing, according to the material we looked at, are pretty staggering. I mean, that stat about Walmart's food traceability really jumped out at me.
It's incredible, isn't it? Going from 7 days to trace where food came from. Think about the paperwork, the phone calls involved in that.
Yeah, nightmare.
Down to just 2.2 seconds. Using a blockchain-based system that's not just, efficiency, that's a massive leap in food safety. Think about recalls.
Right. You can find the source of a bad batch almost instantly. The material also mentioned Tracifier, using this combo to cut food processing costs by up to 40%.
Yeah, cost savings and safety improvements. That's a powerful argument.
Definitely.
And it's not just companies. We're seeing governments getting involved, too. The European Commission, for instance, is piloting blockchain specifically for tracking sustainability claims.
Like proving something is truly green.
Exactly. And ensuring compliance across borders. They're looking at things like digital product passports enabled by this very technology.
Okay, so we see what is happening, this powerful merging of immutable history and real-time reality in supply chains. But that leads us to the big why. Why now? What are the forces pushing this shift away from those traditional, often murky supply chains?
So the material points to several key drivers. First and foremost, the fragility of global supply chains. That's become really undeniable recently.
You mean like during the pandemic or with all the shipping crises we saw?
Exactly, those things. Those events really exposed a critical lack of visibility. When disruptions hit, companies often had, no real-time view of where their stuff was.
Just lost in the fog.
Pretty much. Who was holding it? How could they quickly reroute it? This combination offers a way to build more resilient systems because you know exactly what's happening everywhere all the time, ideally. A second massive driver is the growing pressure around sustainability and ethical sourcing.
Right. People want to know where stuff comes from.
Consumers are demanding it, absolutely. But also regulators, investors, They're all focused on ESG goals, environmental, social, governance. Companies need to provide verifiable proof of their claims about carbon footprints or fair labor or sustainable materials, not just, marketing fluff. Blockchain provides that immutable record.
You can't just greenwash anymore. You actually have to prove it with hard data.
Precisely. Thirdly, there's the problem with the legacy systems, those old databases and processes that plague traditional supply chains.
So the data silos you mentioned.
Exactly. Data is fragmented, stuck in separate systems that don't talk to each other. This makes the whole thing vulnerable to errors, massive inefficiency, and even fraud, because there's no single trusted source of truth. This combination aims to fix that. And finally, it's honestly just about technology maturity. Blockchain tech itself has moved way beyond just crypto.
It's grown up a bit.
It really has. And the related tech, like those IoT sensors feeding the digital twins and the AI needed to make sense of all that data, they're robust enough now for big industrial scale use. They weren't quite there a few years back, but now they are.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You've got external pressures, disruptions, consumer demand, regulations. Then internal problems with old systems. And finally, the tech itself is ready for prime time. That paints a clear picture. Now let's get to the so whats. Why does this matter to you, our listener? What are the concrete benefits here beyond just making life easier for big companies?
Well, the benefits outlined in the material are pretty significant, and they do ripple out. The first is that enhanced transparency we keep talking about, but it's more than just seeing data. It's about trusted data. Knowing that every step is logged immutably means you can potentially trust the story of a product's journey in a way you just couldn't before.
And that transparency, that trust, it directly helps fight things like fraud, right?
Absolutely. That's the second major benefit, fraud prevention. Think about counterfeit luxury goods, fake medicines, maybe food products that have been tampered with. The combo of that unchangeable blockchain history and the real-time data from the digital twin makes it extremely difficult to sneak fakes into the system or alter information without setting off alarms.
Much harder to cheat the system.
Much harder. This transparency and traceability also leads straight to much faster recalls if there's a safety issue, like contamination.
Like with the Walmart example.
Exactly. Companies can pinpoint exactly which batch is affected and where it went almost instantly. Instead of these broad, slow, expensive manual recalls that often miss things, this saves lives, reduces waste, protects brands.
Yeah, that 7 days versus 2 seconds really hammers home the recall benefit. It's the difference between, a localized issue and a widespread crisis.
It absolutely is. And going back to sustainability, this offers truly verifiable sustainability tracking. You can get trusted data points on, say, carbon emissions during transport. Or you could confirm ethical labor practices at the source farm, or verify that materials came from certified sustainable forests, for example. Companies can prove their ESG claims, and potentially consumers will eventually be able to check that proof themselves.
Wow, okay.
And finally, there's a really interesting point in the material about inclusion, how this trusted, verifiable data can actually level the playing field.
House.
Well, think about small suppliers, maybe farmers in emerging markets. If a small farmer can use this kind of system to verifiably prove the quality, maybe the organic status of their coffee beans, they suddenly have this trusted digital identity. It makes them a much more attractive, less risky partner for big global buyers. It could open up markets.
That's a really powerful idea. Using tech not just for the big guys' efficiency, but maybe enabling access for smaller players too. Okay, let's unpack this even more. Where is this actually being used today? Who are the key players leading the charge, according to our sources?
Yeah, the material highlights several key organizations. Walmart, obviously, we've discussed them, especially in food. There's a company called Origin Trail mentioned quite a bit. They're building foundational tech for what they call a verifiable web for supply chain data. They're working with Walmart and the European Commission.
So kind of building the infrastructure.
Seems like it, yeah. Tracify is another one, focusing on that food safety and cost reduction angle we mentioned. The European Commission is driving those regulatory pilots, those digital product passports. And importantly, organizations like the British Standards Institution, BSI, are working hard on developing global standards, which is absolutely crucial if this is going to scale up properly.
You need everyone singing from the same hymn sheet, digitally speaking. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Seeing the specific applications. We hit the big one with Walmart's 2.2-second food trace. That's just phenomenal.
It really is. Another great example from the sources is in agriculture, with companies like AgriDigital. They're using blockchain to trace the entire journey and the organic status of products such as grains, right from the farm field through processing all the way to you, the consumer.
So you could potentially scan a bag of flour and see its whole life story verified.
That's the goal. Building trust through that auditable digital trail. It's huge for consumers who care about where their food comes from.
Absolutely. What about high-value stuff, things prone to fakes?
Yes, big applications there. Industries like wine and luxury goods are definitely adopting this. Imagine a top wine producer tracking every single bottle from the vineyard through fermentation, bottling, shipping, right onto the store shelf, all logged on a blockchain.
Okay.
It's not just about knowing where it is, it's a massive weapon against counterfeiting. Fake wine is a huge problem.
I bet.
With this, buyers can scan a code or tag on the bottle and verify its authenticity. Same for luxury goods.
Like handbags or watches.
Exactly. Pharmaceuticals are another critical area. Many medicines need strict temperature control, right?
Yeah, things like vaccines.
Precisely. Combining blockchain with those real-time IoT sensors means drug companies can monitor the temperature and location of sensitive medicines constantly during shipping. If the temperature goes out of range, even for a short time, it's immediately logged on that immutable blockchain record. And the digital twin shows where it is right now. Allows for quick action. It's vital for patient safety.
That's incredibly important. You don't want spoiled medicine reaching patients.
Never. And as you touched on, luxury brands are using this to fight fakes too. Registering high-end items, designer bags, fancy watches on a blockchain. When you buy one, you get this digital record linked to the physical item, often through a unique tag or QR code. It's indisputable proof of authenticity for the buyer. It also helps track ownership over time, like a digital passport for your expensive watch.
So you're not just buying the thing, you're buying the thing plus its verified digital life story.
Yeah.
That feels fundamentally different.
It is a fundamental shift, I think. But, like any big transformative technology, the sources are clear that it's not all smooth sailing. There are hurdles.
Yeah, what are some of the key challenges mentioned in the material? It can't be easy implementing this stuff globally.
No, definitely not. A really significant one is interoperability. You've got lots of different blockchain platforms popping up, different companies developing different standards, getting all these separate systems used by potentially thousands of different partners in a global supply chain to actually talk to each other seamlessly and share data in a standardized way. That's a huge technical challenge and a collaboration challenge too.
So it's like everyone's speaking slightly different digital languages right now.
Kind of, yeah. That's a good analogy. Another critical challenge is ensuring data quality at the source. Garbage in, garbage out. Right.
Right. The blockchain only records what you tell it.
Exactly. It's immutable, which is its strength. But if the data coming in from, say, an IoT sensor is wrong, or if someone manually types in the wrong info way back at the start, that bad data gets locked in forever. Making sure the initial inputs are accurate is absolutely paramount. But that's tough in complex, messy, real-world environments.
I could see that. What else?
Then there's the sheer challenge of scaling. We see these impressive pilots, like Walmart tracing certain food items, but moving from that to implementing this across massive, global, multi-layered supply chains involving thousands of companies, that's an enormous undertaking, requires huge investment, big changes in how companies work, and lots of cooperation.
It's not just plug and play them.
Far from it. And finally, there's this tricky balance between transparency and data privacy. The whole point is visibility, right? End to end. But companies have commercially sensitive information they need to protect. And they absolutely have to comply with data protection rules like GDPR in Europe, which dictate how personal data is handled, figuring out exactly what data gets shared, who gets to see it, and how to protect the sensitive stuff while still achieving useful transparency. That's a really complex legal and technical tightrope walk.
Those are definitely real-world complexities, significant hurdles to overcome. But looking past those challenges, the material paints a really exciting picture for the future, doesn't it? So what does this all potentially mean down the road for how goods move, maybe for us as consumers?
Yeah, the possibilities outlined are quite far-reaching. One really fascinating concept mentioned is the idea of self-healing supply chains.
Self-healing, what does that mean?
Well, imagine combining all that real-time data from the digital twins with sophisticated AI analysis. The system could potentially predict disruptions before they happen. Maybe it sees signs of a port strike developing or flags a shipping route with a high risk of weather delays based on forecasts. And then it could automatically reroute shipments or trigger contingency plans, maybe without any human needing to intervene directly.
Wow. So the supply chain basically spots trouble and fixes itself. That's pretty futuristic.
That's the vision, yes. And for consumers, it points towards becoming truly empowered with information. Imagine standing in the supermarket, scanning a QR code on, say, a bag of coffee, and instantly seeing its entire verified journey, where the beans were grown, which farm, confirmation of fair trade practices, its carbon footprint during transport, all backed by that trusted blockchain data. Unprecedented insight.
That would change how people shop, I think.
It really could. It also promises much more automated compliance. Think about customs checks or proving regulatory standards are met between trading partners. Instead of stacks of paperwork and manual inspections, the verifiable, real-time data flowing through these systems could allow for automated checks against regulations. That could dramatically reduce delays and cut down on bureaucracy.
Less red tape, faster movement of goods.
Hopefully. And coming back to that inclusion point again, this reinforces the potential for global inclusion. It means that small artisan producer in a developing country could use this tech to verifiably prove the quality, the origin, the ethical production of their crafts. Suddenly they can access global markets they couldn't before because they can build that necessary trust and provide the data global buyers need.
So it could genuinely help smaller players compete fairly on a global stage.
That's a major potential benefit, yes. So if we sort of zoom out and connect all these dots, the sources really suggest this isn't just, a minor tech upgrade. Blockchain and digital twins working together could fundamentally change the underlying operating system for global commerce. It's about building a new layer of trust and verifiability directly into how physical stuff moves around the world, creating systems that could be way more efficient, more resilient, fairer, and significantly more transparent.
It really does feel like a quiet revolution, as I said at the start. Happening behind the scenes, making the products that eventually land on your doorstep potentially safer, greener, and definitely more trustworthy than ever before. So maybe the next time you pick something up at the store, it can be a carton of milk, a new phone, maybe that bottle of wine we talked about. Just take a second. Consider that invisible digital history, that real-time status report that might have guided its path all the way to you. How much trust does that digital twin and its blockchain ledger actually earn in your mind? A fascinating shift in how we might connect with the journey of everyday things. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Stay curious.